Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about the concept of type 1 and type 2 error. Type 1 and type 2 error. Okay. So one thing I want to be certain to state is that when we do testing, we might make mistakes. Okay. So when we do testing, we might make mistakes. Okay. And there are two types of mistakes, type 1 and type 2. To demonstrate that, let me give you this box visualization. Okay, so here there are two possibilities. The first one is the no is true. No is true. When I say no, I mean no hypothesis. And no is false. Okay, so there are two possibilities. No is true and no is false. And then when you do your decision, you either reject your no hypothesis or fail to reject. Okay, fail to reject. Okay, and look at this box. What's type 1 error? Type 1 error is when the no is true, you reject the no. This is a mistake. Okay, so remember, the no is true, we reject the no, right? That sounds familiar. And I'll connect type 1 to something we learned before. But type 1 is when the no is true, you reject the no. Okay? When the no is false, you reject the no. This is correct, right? This is a correct decision. So I'll just say correct decision. Okay, now let's move to this box here. When the no is true, you fail to reject. You don't reject your no. That's again correct decision. Okay, now when the no is false, but you fail to reject your no, right? You say your no might be true. So this is what we call type 2 error. Okay, type 2 error. Okay, so type 1 error and type 2 error. Okay, so let me just write these two out formally. So type 1 error is the mistake that you reject your no, when your no is true. Okay, when your no is true, you reject your no. And then type 2 error is when you fail to reject your no when no is false. Okay, and these are the two types of error that we make when we do testing. Okay, and this one sounds very familiar because this is just our alpha, right? So our alpha or significance level, the definition for that is when the no is true, you reject your no. Okay, so type 1 is just alpha. Type 1 error is just our alpha or significance level. Okay, so type 1 error is our alpha or significance level. Very good. And there's one more thing that I want to, or one more term that I want to introduce that's connect to type 2 error. Another term that we use often is what we call power. Okay, so power is the complement of type 2, where power is the probability you reject your no when no is false. Okay, very good. So this is a correct decision, right? When the no is false, you reject your no. And what's the probability for that? So this one and type 2 error both are conditional on the no is false. So your type 2 error, the probability you reject the no when the no, well, it's a probability that you fail to reject the no when the no is false, plus you reject the no when the no is false. This should sum up to 100% or 1. Okay? So that's how you connect power with type 2. Now let me just give you an example to show you how type 1 and type 2 error show up. Let me just do it here, right? Example. So we're told that Cal State University Los Angeles students GPA, the average, so we know this is 3.5, right? So we know that the whole school's average is 3.5, and then we're interested in whether econ students have different GPA. Or just say we think econ students have different GPA, and then we're gonna take a sample. We're gonna take a sample of econ students and see whether the GPA is different than 3.5. And see if GPA different than 3.5. Okay, so this is what we do. We're interested in whether econ students have different GPA than 3.5. Okay. Let me write out the null hypothesis. So the null hypothesis in this case will be whether the econ student GPA is different than 3.5. So I just say whether GPA is, well, so we're testing whether it's different than 3.5. So the null hypothesis is the one that says nothing changes, nothing happens. It's the alternative, we're going to say GPA not equals to 3.5. Okay. So what's a type 1 error here? So let me give you an example of a type 1 error. Type 1 error in this case is we make the conclusion. Yeah, so we conclude that econ students GPA is not 3.5. Okay, so we make the conclusion that econ students GPA is not 3.5, but when it actually is, right? So when the no is true, when the GPA is actually 3.5, but then we conclude their GPA is not 3.5, right? So when the no is true, we reject the no. Okay, so that's type 1. And what's type 2? So type 2 error, in this case, it's we conclude the econ students GPA is 3.5. So we say the GPA is 3.5 when actually it is not, right? So when the no is false, so it's not econ student GPA is not 3.5, but we say it is, right? So we fail to reject the no when the no is false. Okay? And this is our type 2 error. Perfect. Good. So in this video, we talked about the concept of type 1 and type 2 error. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.